Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to unpack one of the most foundational stories ever told. It's a story about a perfect beginning, a single choice, and the huge consequences that rippled out from it. So picture this, a perfect garden, the first two people, and just one rule to follow. It seems so simple, right? But one decision changed absolutely everything. Let's dive in and see how it all unfolded, starting right at the beginning.
All right, so before we can even talk about people or rules, we've got to set the stage. We're starting with the creation of the world itself. This is the backdrop for everything that's about to happen.
The story opens in, well, nothingness, a formless void, total darkness. But then, a single command cuts through it all. Let there be light. And just like that, the first act of creation is a done deal. And what comes next isn't some chaotic mess. It's actually a really orderly process. As you can see, over 6 days, the world gets built piece by piece, from the sky and sea to all the plants and creatures that would eventually fill it up. So the world is now formed, it's teeming with life, and everything's in its place. Now the narrative introduces its most special creation, the first humans. And here he is, Adam. He's placed in this incredible paradise, the Garden of Eden. And what's his job? Pretty simple, really. Take care of the garden and everything in it. But even in a perfect place like this, something just wasn't right. The narrative points out a key detail. All the other creatures had a partner, but Adam, he was all alone. The solution to this problem is pretty incredible. A companion isn't just magicked out of thin air. She's formed directly from Adam himself. This is Eve, created to be his partner, and together they start their perfect life in the garden. But of course, this perfect life came with one very specific and very important condition. Right in the center of the garden, there were two special trees, and they kind of symbolize two different paths. Adam and Eve were totally free to eat from the tree of life and live forever, but there was one huge exception. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was completely, strictly forbidden. And this is where the story takes a huge turn. A brand new character shows up in the garden, and they're ready to challenge that one single crucial rule. The source describes this new character as the craftiest creature God had made, a serpent. Now, it doesn't use force or threats. Instead, it just casually approaches Eve with a question, and that's all it takes to plant the first little seeds of doubt. The serpent makes this incredibly powerful promise. It basically suggests that the real reason the fruit is off limits is because it holds the key to divine knowledge, that if they eat it, they could become as wise as God. You can just imagine, tempted by a promise like that, Eve's whole perspective shifts. All of a sudden, that fruit looks completely irresistible. So she gives in. She takes a bite and then shares it with Adam, who eats it too. So was the result this amazing divine wisdom? Not quite. Instead, they're hit with this brand new, awful feeling, shame. They suddenly see themselves in a totally different way, and for the very first time, they feel afraid. So afraid, in fact, that they hide from God. And now, we get to the consequences of that single act of disobedience. The choice has been made, and judgment is on its way. So when God finds them hiding, a confrontation kicks off. Adam admits he ate the fruit, but he immediately blames Eve. Eve, in turn, blames the serpent. The blame just gets passed right down the line, and that perfect unity they had, it's shattered. As a result, a specific punishment is handed down to each of the three for the part they played. Their lives, and really the world itself, are now forever changed. They are banished from paradise, forever. And just to make sure they can never get back to the tree of life, an angel with a flaming sword is placed to guard the way. The door is officially closed. So after all that, what's the big takeaway from this story? Well, according to the source, it's not just about punishment. This story is really the foundational explanation for how sin, which here is defined as disobeying a command from God, first entered the world. But it's framed as something more than just breaking a rule. It's about a fractured relationship, a loss of innocence, and the complicated consequences of wanting wisdom before you're ready for it. But the story doesn't just end with doom and gloom. The source makes a point to emphasize this thread of mercy that's woven through the whole thing. I mean, even as they're being kicked out, Adam and Eve aren't destroyed.
God makes clothes for them, which is a simple act, but it shows continued care. It suggests that even in exile, that connection isn't completely gone.
And so, this ancient story leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. After thousands of years, what is the biggest lesson we can take away from the story of a single fateful choice? What does it still have to say to us today?